Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 1st of August, now it's 12:30, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second update will be a little bit late on my Patreon page, in which I will share additional news that will be reported by Russian media. If you are interested to subscribe to my Patreon, you can see a link under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. That being said, let's talk about news now, and I will start with the breaking news for this moment, which is yet another drone strike of Zelensky's regime in direction of Moscow. According to official statements from Russian side, 3 drones were launched in direction of Russian capital. 2 drones were shot down by air defense systems, and 1 drone was suppressed by radio electronic warfare system. But somehow one of the drones still reached financial district of Russian capital and strike on one of the high-rising office buildings. And as you can see in this picture here, quite significant damage was done to one of the floors. In that office block, there are no reports about casualties on the ground. And the mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin, did make statement that Moscow's administration will conduct a check on that building on the damage. Well, I don't think construction of the building was significantly damaged, but one of the floors definitely was. And if you are interested, you can see some additional photo and video on my Telegram page also. Well, this is just in the last 5 days, this is second strike on Russian capital. And if this will continue, then well, I don't know how Muscovites and the Russian citizens gonna react in such a development. And by the way, if you remember previous strike which did take place 2 or 3 days ago, during that strike one of the drones also hit office block in Moscow's financial district. And because of it, I mean, I don't believe in coincidences that much, so I think possibly Moscow city was initial main target for those drones, and suppressed or not, but they did manage to at least twice hit buildings in that area. Very fortunate that no casualties, no one was killed during those strikes, but during previous incident 1 person was injured. At least 1 person was injured. And well, I did see many comments in comment sections. I did see angry comments of citizens of Russia in different channels in comment sections. Many were predicting that Moscow will retaliate after previous strike and will take out decision-making centers in Kiev, in Lvov, major decision-making centers. But nothing like that did happen. And well, I wouldn't be surprised if there will be no retaliatory strikes on decision-making centers in Kiev after this strike on Moscow also. Don't ask me why. I just, well, I never understood this soft approach from Kremlin towards political and military leadership of regime in Kiev. In my understanding, it's only logical to take out leadership of your enemy, at least to generate some confusion among ranks of enemy. But well, for whatever reasons, Putin has a very different approach, and his general staff has very different approach, and not just decision-making centers in Kiev are untouched. With one exception, when this building was strike, of Ukraine's military intelligence, which was, according to some reports, was empty. But well, it is what it is, man. I just don't really understand Kremlin's policies when it comes to leadership of Kiev regime, and if you do understand, please share your opinion in comment section. But if this continues, if Zelensky's regime will strike deep inside Russian territory with impunity, and if Zelensky and his associates will be able to just run around freely like nothing is happening, then, well, I guess it's only a matter of time when we will see some protest demonstrations in cities of Russian Federation. Not necessarily with demands of resignation of Putin or government, although not everyone is happy with Putin and government, it's obvious. But with the demands to conduct some decisive actions against leadership of enemy, to bring this conflict to its end, to its logical end, which is a decisive victory of Russia. Because everything that has its beginning has its end also, and same goes for patience of Russian society. Russian citizens are very patient, but only for so long. Only for so long. But yet again, maybe after this strike, Kremlin will make some changes in its approach towards Kiev regime, leadership of Kiev regime. I don't know, but well, I truly don't understand their policies, so at least I can express my frustration with some topics. Okay, let me continue, and now I will give you, first of all, a quick summary of the situation on the front line, if I may. So let's go from southern sectors towards northern sectors. Kherson region, not significant changes during the previous 12 to 24 hours. Artillery duels between the sides, recon operations, and constant fight for these islands in the Dnieper Delta. But as I said, nothing is happening in the scale that will influence overall situation on this sector of the front. We did had oh, by the way, if you want to see these pictures or video of that damaged high-rise building in Moscow, you can see it on my Telegram channel. I did share some topics, some pics of it. And when it comes to Kherson region, just a few minutes ago, or a little longer, I did share this video when Russian drone Lancet strikes IRIS-T, German IRIS-T air defense systems, and this happened in Kherson region. As I understand, you can check that on my Telegram also. But as I said, nothing is happening that will influence overall situation on the front line, just local scale skirmishes. When it comes to Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front, also operational pause. We had some reports that this morning Ukrainian forces did try to conduct some local scale offensives in Orekhov direction towards Rabotina, but according to Russian officials, all the Ukrainian attempts to improve their positions were repealed. So mainly it's operational pause. I guess Ukrainian forces will, Zelensky's regime will try to reinforce Ukrainian forces in this area, because during the previous week or 10 days, Ukrainian armed forces did suffer extremely heavy losses in direction of Rabotina. When it comes to this bridgehead between Ugledar and Gulay-Polye, so-called Vremovsky Ledge, we have reports that Zelensky's regime is sending additional troops in this direction to conduct a new wave of offensive operations in direction of Staromayorskaya and Urozhaina. But for now, for this moment, it's only local recon operations and local level fights between the sides, and of course artillery duels. And by the way, Russian frontline aviation, especially helicopter gunships, are very active in these sectors of the front, on this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. And I did share on my Telegram channel many videos when Ka-52 helicopter gunship or Mi-28 helicopter gunships are taking out dozens and dozens of Ukrainian military equipment in these sectors. When it comes to, but yet again, it's operational pause, and as I did said quite a few times before, I do have some doubts that Zelensky's regime will be able to conduct a second wave of the so-called counteroffensive, because they already lost in last 2 months about 40,000 soldiers killed and wounded during the so-called counteroffensive, and this is at least half of strategic reserves that Zelensky's regime had. But yet again, everything depends in this regards on Washington and London. Will they allow Zelensky's regime to keep those strategic reserves, or will they force Zelensky and his generals to send those strategic reserves also in direction of this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia? When it comes to Donetsk direction, it's also operational pause, I will say, even though there are some fierce fighting in main hot points, which is Marinka, Krasnogorovka, and Avdiivka. Yesterday we had reports that Russian forces did manage to shut down Ukrainian Su-25 attack plane in this sector of the front. But yet again, nothing is happening in the scale that will influence overall situation on the front line. When it comes to Bakhmut direction, it's basically also operational pause. As you know, during the previous weeks, Ukrainian forces were quite active in southern sector, on the southern flank of Bakhmut. They were trying to attack Klishchevka, Kurdyumovka, Andreevka, and even though they did manage to achieve some success, especially in direction of Andreevka and Klishchevka, eventually Russian forces regain initiative in these local scale clashes, and I believe without additional reinforcements, Ukrainian forces would not be able to continue their offensive on this on southern flank of Bakhmut. When it comes to northern sectors, initiative is in Russian hands, and despite attempts of Ukrainian forces to somehow penetrate Russian defense lines in direction of Dubovo-Vasilievka, Berkhovka, Yakhidnaya, they are unable to do so, and probably they will never have any chance to achieve any success in this direction. Initiative is totally in Russian hands, as I mentioned, but by the way, they are using long-range artillery to strike Bakhmut. Now it's Ukrainian forces that are conducting strikes on Bakhmut. They are basically for nothing depleting their ammunition stocks, because Bakhmut is practically empty, and Russian forces are dispersed, and it's gonna be extremely difficult for Ukrainian forces to deal some significant damage to Russian forces, Russian garrison of Bakhmut, without entering the city itself, and they will never enter this city. I'm quite sure about it. When it comes to Seversk direction, when it comes to northern sectors of the front, from Seversk to Kupiansk, initiative is in Russian hands totally, and even though there are some local scale skirmishes, yet again nothing is happening that influence overall situation on these sectors of the front. It's only a matter of time when Russian forces will receive green light to conduct large-scale offensive operations, and I believe Russian forces will straight away start offensives in direction of Kupiansk, in direction of Liman, and I believe before that green light, Russian forces will probably try to improve their positions in direction of Seversk. By the way, I find it difficult to use this map, man. I truly do. Because of these colors, like, you cannot even read. I mean, that's a Seversk, okay, that's must be Belogorovka here. I somehow read this map just because I'm more or less familiar with geography of this of the front line, but I mean, this map is much more easy to use, truly, because of the colors that are used. But anyway, this is quick summary of the situation on the front. There were some reports that Russian forces were conducting reckoning force operation in the direction of Chernigov and Sumy regions of Ukraine, but we don't really have some additional detailed information about it. Now let me share with you some additional news, and first of all, I will share with you this information about Gerasimov, head of Russian General Staff, who was inspecting headquarters of Russian group of forces in southern sectors of the front, and according to TASS news agency, Gerasimov was in Zaporozhye region. This is, of course, main direction of Ukrainian so-called counteroffensive, so it's quite understandable that high command of Russian armed forces paying special attention to readiness of Russian forces in this area. At least for now, Russian forces are doing just great. They basically are decimating all the waves of Ukrainian offensive forces. So I don't think Gerasimov will be unhappy with the situation in the Zaporozhye region. Let me continue. Also, TASS news agency is reporting, by the way, this information from yesterday afternoon, but I will share with you anyway. So Shoigu made quite a few statements about special military operation, and he said that during the previous months, Ukrainian forces did lost almost 21,000 soldiers killed and wounded. Also 2,200 different type of military equipment, including 10 Leopard 2 tanks, which is well, quite significant number, really, isn't it? 2,200 different pieces of military equipment. That's quite stuff, really, and almost 21,000 soldiers were killed and wounded. That's if we combine Ukrainian losses in previous months and months before, when this counteroffensive has begun, then, as I said, the Ukrainian forces lost about 45,000 soldiers, which is at least 50% of strategic reserves that Zelensky's regime had before this so-called counteroffensive began. And by the way, according to Shoigu, Ukrainian forces also lost 11 Bradleys, 40 M77 howitzers during previous months, 50 self-prepared artillery pieces from UK, US, Germany, France, and Poland. So quite significant numbers. I believe Zelensky's regime still has about 8 to 10 more or less battle-ready brigades in its strategic reserve, which is about 35,000-40,000 military personnel. And as I said, it all depends on Washington and London. Will they allow Zelensky's regime to keep these reserves, or will they demand this so-called counteroffensive to continue? And well, if I have to guess, then I will I will predict that Washington and London will probably demand this counteroffensive to continue, because I believe at this stage Washington and London wants to get rid of battle-ready Ukrainian units as much as possible on the Eastern Front, so that when Poland and some other NATO member states from anti-Russian coalition that was built by Warsaw with support of Washington and London, when they will send their troops in the western regions of Ukraine, they will receive minimal resistance from Ukrainian forces, if at all, if they will even receive any resistance. So that's why I believe Washington and London will probably demand this so-called counteroffensive to continue, so that Russian side will neutralize maximum of Ukrainian armed forces. Now I'm 100% sure we are entering in the stage of this conflict when main discussion topics between major capitals are disintegration of Ukraine, how it will take place, and which parts of Ukraine will be controlled by which party. That's it. Let me continue, and this is quite interesting. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that according to Russian Defense Ministry, during the previous 24 hours, Ukrainian forces did try to strike Russian Navy ships in the Black Sea with naval drones, and 3 drones were used to do so, and they were used against ships Sergei Kotov and Vasily Bykov, and according to Russian Defense Ministry, all the drones were destroyed, and the incident took place 340 kilometers away from Sevastopol on the southern west sector of the Black Sea. Well, I guess this is not the last attempt of Zelensky's regime to strike Russian ships in the Black Sea. But, I guess crews of those ships are very well aware of risks that these naval drones are posing, so they are prepared, and they are quite effective to destroy all those Ukrainian drones. Let me continue now, and TASS news agency is reporting that Denis Pushilin, head of DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, did made statement that Ukrainian side, Zelensky's regime, is sending reinforcements in direction of Staromayorsk. I did spoke about it just a few minutes ago, and by the way, Staromayorsk is here on this bridgehead between Ugledar and Gulyai Pole. That's settlement Staromayorsk, which is in gray zone, and for Russian side it's important to keep this settlement in the gray zone, to not allow Zelensky's regime or forces that are still loyal to Zelensky to dig in this settlement, because in that case Urozhaina, it will be increasingly difficult to protect Urozhaina. And by the way, this pro-Ukrainian map is getting crazier and crazier on daily basis, man. Unbelievable how they are destroying the reputation. They used to have reputation, isn't it? And they are not, just look at it, man. According to this map, Rabotin, Novo... What the heck is that? Novopro-Zhopivka... What? Whatever the name of that settlement is, they are controlled by Russian forces in reality, but according to this map, they are under Ukrainian control. And by the way, according to these idiots, Urozhaina is also under control of Ukrainian forces, which is false. So I'm gonna shut down this map, man. It's just totally unreliable. So in reality, Urozhaina, of course, under Russian control, and to keep control over the Urozhaina for Russian side is important to not allow Ukrainian forces to dig in Staromayorsk, which is formally under control of Ukrainian side, but they are unable to they are unable to build up strongholds in this settlement, at least for this moment. They are constantly under Russian artillery and drone strikes. Let's continue. And as I reported just a few minutes ago, TASS news agency also had the article that Russian forces managed to destroy German IRIS-T air defense system in Kherson region, in area of Mirne. This is not the first IRIS-T that was destroyed by Russian forces, and I guess not the last one. Let's continue, and RIA Novosti is reporting about articles in the Western media. As I said quite a few times, Russian journalists, Russian media outlets do pay attention to the Western media outlets, what they are writing. And in this case, RIA Novosti is writing about statements of former CIA analytic Ray McGovern, who said that after failure of Ukrainian counteroffensive, Russian side will have a carte blanche. Russian side will have all the opportunity to conduct its own counteroffensive or large-scale offensive operation and reach the Dnieper River, which is which is true, basically. You don't have to be a CIA analytic or CIA expert to realize that that's what will happen. If Russian forces will receive such orders from Moscow. And by the way, one more expert from former CIA aide, Jim Rickards, also did spoke about Ukrainian conflict, and he said that basically Russia did manage to achieve significant success by cutting off Ukraine from Black Sea, and now it's only a matter of time when Russian forces will establish control over the Odessa region, which is also true, by the way. And I did say many times before that once this conflict will end, and it will end one way or another, I guess maximum before end of 2024, at least the entire southern and eastern parts of Ukraine will be under full Russian control, from Kharkov to Odessa and Odessa region. And Russia will, of course, reach Transnistria. That's a minimum. But very well possible that Russia will also establish control over the central regions of Ukraine, and the western regions of Ukraine will become controlled by Poland, Romania, Hungary, maybe Slovakia, NATO member states, to be frank. That's how Ukraine gonna be disintegrated. And they're highly likely that there will be no state Ukraine left after everything's said and done. That's what Zelensky and his associates and those Nazi criminals that are running Ukraine since 2014 did to that country. And by the way, also very important news, Gonzalo Lira, you all are familiar, of course, with Gonzalo and his work. So today I did see few videos on his channel, Gonzalo Lira again. When he is free, he did spoke about his arrest in Ukraine, what happened to him. He did spend a few months in Ukrainian jail, and he was released on bail, as I understand. And because he don't feels safe in Ukraine, and he don't feel that justice can be achieved in Ukraine, he made decision to flee to Hungary, and he's talking about it in these videos. And third part of this video is ending when he's saying that, well, If he is successful and he is not arrested on the border crossing, then his next videos probably will be from Hungary, and he wants to ask for asylum, political asylum in Hungary. But if he wouldn't upload any new videos in coming days, then unfortunately he was unable to cross border with Hungary. Well, let's wish him luck. Let's hope he did manage to cross that border. But when it comes to Zelensky's regime, who knows? Maybe they are tracking him, and maybe they will arrest him right on the border and charge with additional accusations. Who knows? He should try to flee to Russia. It would be much more safe for him if he will find any ways to flee to Russia. But it's not easy. I do understand that, and probably that's why he made decision to go to Hungary. Let's see if in coming days we will hear from Gonzalo. Then he's safe. Then he's in Hungary. So let's wish him luck. I'm gonna wait for updates from Alex Christoforou and Alexander Mercuris today with a special interest, because I believe they know personally Gonzalo Lira. Alexander Mercuris did spoke about it quite a few times, and probably he does have much more information that is available for now. But let's hope Gonzalo Lira did manage to cross that border, and he is now safe in Hungary. Let me continue now. And Kommersant newspaper, how long is this update? 32 minutes. Okay, I will go through headlines as fast as I can. So Kommersant newspaper is writing that USA, Biden administration and Pentagon did sign agreement with Bulgaria, South Korea and Japan for on supplies of 155 millimeter shells, and those shells of course eventually end up in hands of Zelensky's regime. Well, when it comes to Japan, I'm not surprised, but well, I don't really understand why South Korea and Bulgaria needs to position themselves as the enemies of Russia, man. I just don't get it. Especially Bulgaria, man. Bulgaria exists only because of Russia. Bulgaria exists only because of Russia, and these criminal elites of Bulgaria now are positioning this state as an enemy of Russia, which is tragic, really. Let me continue. RT is reporting that US will give to Ukraine Abrams tanks without sensitive technologies, which is, well, quite understandable. But Newsweek is reporting that from these Abrams tanks that Pentagon will deliver to Zelensky's regime in September, some sensitive electronic equipment will be removed. Also, armor will be downgraded, and only that way these tanks will end up in Ukraine. Well, even if these tanks were latest variants, they will burn like Leopard 2s did. And when it comes to technology, to be honest, I don't think Abrams do have any technology that is truly like interesting. After all, it's Russia that did build 4th generation tank first. These Abrams tanks, they are okay tanks, but truly nothing special. They are burning like matches. And by the way, Houthis did prove that many times. Houthi rebels in Yemen, they did burn many Abrams tanks that were sent in Yemen by Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, if I'm not mistaken. So the Pentagon may try to position these Abrams tanks like game changers or something special, but they are just ordinary third generation tanks that are not much for Russian mines and guided anti-tank weapons. They will burn as well as German Leopard 2 tanks are burning in Zaporozhye sector of the front line. Let me continue now, and TASS news agency is reporting that State Department did confirm that negotiations has begun with the Zelensky's regime about security guarantees for Ukraine. This was announced by Zelensky's regime yesterday or day before, if I'm not mistaken, and I did report about it. Only question is what security guarantees Washington can give to modern Ukraine in current situation. What security guarantees? I mean, we can speculate, but from Russian perspective, Washington's guarantees to Ukraine means nothing, just nothing, and Russia will do whatever it needs to be done to secure itself from enemies from the West. Let me continue now, and TASS news agency is reporting that the Defense Minister of Italy come up with a quite surprising statement that there should be some opportunities left for negotiations with Russia and China. Well, this type of quite logical statements are unwelcomed in the Western world these days, and I wonder how long this person will Guido Crosetto will remain Defense Minister of Italy if he will continue to make such a statements, such obvious statements that for world security it's necessary to keep some to maintain some channels of communication between Russia and NATO member states, but unfortunately not everyone understands that. And by the way, this is also interesting. Mexico did make decision not to participate in that so-called peace talks about Ukraine that will take place on 5th and 6th of August, if I'm not mistaken, in Saudi Arabia. And Mexico, President of Mexico, Andres Manuel Lopez, said that Mexico will participate if Russia will be represented on that summit. Otherwise, they see no reason to talk about peace in Ukraine, because Lopez did not say it, but I mean it's pointless, really, isn't it? If Russia is not invited, then what is the point of all that show? So well done to Mexico and Mexico's government. I mean, they are brave people. Because even these kind of obvious statements are not welcomed by West, and I guess State Department will try to pressure Mexico's government to make sure they will change their mind. But let's see. And by the way, a few more topics. TASS news agency is reporting that Niger, that's the right pronunciation, I'm not sure, but Niger made the decision, this coup government, new military government that was established in Niger few days ago. They made decision to block exports of uranium and gold to France, which is and by the way, this is reported by BBC. which is a quite decision because according to some reports, France is heavily dependent on uranium from Niger. And by the way, there were some reports that France is considering military strikes against the junta in that state. Then there were reports that French foreign minister said that it's false information that are circulating in internet, and France is not intend to conduct military operation against Niger. Very, very strange situation. Not yet clear what will happen and how will France react. And by the way, as I understand, France has military base in Niger, and also we have information that regional bloc in Africa, West Africa, are threatening Niger with military action if they will not restore former president into power, which is quite worrisome development. And by the way, one of the coup leaders in Niger made a statement that France, despite all these statements that France will not strike on Niger, one of the coup leaders did make a statement that according to information that they have, France is preparing military action. And by the way, Germany also made statement that they will support France, whatever decision by French government, whatever decision by French government will be made, which is crazy statement from Germany. I mean, if Macron is crazy, then why Germany have to act crazy also? But leadership of Germany are no less disgraceful elements than French leadership. So not really not really surprising statement. Few more news. UK's RT is reporting that UK businesses are ignoring anti-Russian sanctions. This is reported by Times, and according to article in Times, many UK businesses are finding ways to stay on Russian market, and they are supplying with equipment even strategic sectors of Russian economy, like energy sector is. And in some cases, according to Times, London even given special permissions to Ukrainian companies to transfer this equipment to Russia. I wonder why, but that's what Times is writing. And maybe because otherwise these companies will just shut down, and maybe London don't want thousands and thousands of unemployed people. I don't know. And by the way, this is gonna be also interesting news. So Russian export of oil in China did hit a new record, and according to latest news, Russia is exporting on daily basis in China more than 2 million barrels of crude oil. China has two major oil suppliers. One is Saudi Arabia and second is Russia. And because of discounts that Russia is providing, China's dependence on Russian energy is increasing basically day by day, and they are importing more and more energy sources from Russia, which is at one hand understandable, but in other hand, I will prefer if China will have many different routes of supply of oil, because extreme dependence on each other not always a good thing, to be honest. And I don't want China to be strategically dependent on Russia. It's dangerous for many reasons. And by the way, last news for today's update, which is about our project. Well, a few days ago, I was invited to participate in program on Dialogue Works channel. You can see this channel in a recommendation list under every my video, and or almost every my video. And I will participate on this program on this channel today. So hopefully auditory or community of Dialogue Works will find the conversation interesting. I hope so. And well, if you will find it interesting, I will definitely recommend to all of you to subscribe on Dialogue Works and to watch that conversation that I will have there. As I said, you can see link in the under this video in description box in recommendation list. And this is it. This is it for today. I hope you will find this update interesting. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary about just any topic you like, because more likes and comments definitely make change and definitely influence YouTube algorithm and allows me to reach wider audience. And if you can, please share links to my videos on my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter or Telegram. For very same reason, I will be immensely grateful. And if you think this channel is interesting, has some potential, are useful and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, by subscribing to my Patreon page, or through Buy Me Coffee. You will see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.